Welcome to Glow for Hope, sparking conversation on mental health, where we break the silence, build community, and ignite hope. We're here to talk about what really matters: mental health, wellness, and the conversations that help us all feel seen and supported. Every episode will bring real stories, expert insights, and practical tools to help you navigate mental wellness and suicide prevention. Because together, we can change the conversation. Let's get started. So welcome to Glow for Hope, sparking conversation on mental health. I'm your host, Kelly Poelker.
And I'm Delisa Richardson. And on this podcast, we're going to shine a light on real issues that impact mental health and highlight community-driven solutions that help people heal, grow, and thrive.
Yes, and today's conversation focuses on a topic that often gets overlooked in mental health discussions, but it plays a powerful role in emotional well-being, and that's literacy.
Yes, we are honored to be joined by someone whose work sits right at the intersection of literacy, access, and mental health.
That's right. Our guest today is Linda Mitchell. She's a founder and executive director of the Metro East Literacy Project, also known as MELP. Linda leads this vital nonprofit in helping under-resourced families transform their lives through literacy by providing home libraries, one-on-one tutoring, and cognitive support for seniors. Her passion for this work is deeply personal. Growing up with an illiterate grandmother shaped her understanding of how literacy, or the lack of it, impacts dignity, independence, and mental health across every stage of life. A Chicago native, Linda is a devoted wife, proud mother of 2 adult children, and a loving Mimi to 2 granddaughters. Her work is rooted in the belief that literacy is not just a skill, it is a liberation.
Linda, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to get in this conversation.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Yes. Glad to have you. So, Linda, we're just going to dive right in here. Literacy isn't always part of the mental health conversation. So from your perspective, how does literacy, or does low literacy or the inability to read confidently, impact a person's emotional well-being and mental health?
I definitely believe that literacy, low literacy, functional illiteracy impacts a person's mental health. And it shows up in low self-esteem. It shows up in stress, sadness, frustration. Sometimes people have a sense of wanting to give up. And I'm just speaking from experience of adults that I have tutored. So I've tutored a 3 gentlemen in their 60s, a woman in her 80s. And by that stage of life, their lack of literacy skills has caused them so much frustration, shame.
I can imagine, and that's a demographic that is high in suicide risk also.
Absolutely, I believe so. And so I just love being able to support them as much as I can for as long as I can. And I say for as long as I can because a couple of them, after maybe 3 months or so, threw up their hands and said, you know what, this is too hard. I've been coping all these years. And reading, reading is it's not easy. The English language, especially the English language. I mean, you have examples like I'm trying to explain two. You spell two, T-O, then you spell it T-W-O, then you spell it T-O-O. We've got all these, English is complex. And so, there are a couple of them that just said, you know what, I'll just continue, have my uncle read everything to me. Or the young lady said, her dream was to be able to go to a restaurant and be able to read the menu herself. Now, she was in her 20s. And she said, I don't want my aunties and everybody reading for me. I want to be able to order myself. She's not able to do that. And so we may circle back to her, but sometimes, there's so much stress and frustration in their lives that life gets in the way of them, continuing the lessons. And it's not just that demographic. A lot of people who struggle like that, they want to make themselves better, but then, they lose their job, they don't have transportation, all different life situations. But
Yeah.
it's
And
sad. It saddened me when I couldn't continue with these gentlemen, because I knew what their lives would be like on the other end.
right, right.
They had
Yeah, and
kept
it
going.
and even to have the ability to advocate for their own mental health and filling out medical
Yes.
forms,
Oh,
understanding diagnosis or diagnoses, and
yes.
knowing how to access the right support services.
That's what it's all about. These mental health, the prescriptions, the nutrition, everything. Our society is just so word based. You walk out the house and you see the road signs and street signs and billboards, and you go grocery shop. Words are everywhere. And when you can't access that, I think you feel, and you see everyone else. Well, you think you see everyone else in the world can read but me, which is not true. But
Some just fake it better than others.
yes. Oh, yes, they fake it. They say things like, "Oh shucks, I forgot my glasses. Can you read that for me? They're in the car." They have all kinds of mechanisms
Hmm.
to let you know that they aren't able to read, but that mental health piece is huge. Reading or not being able to read impacts your overall well-being in all aspects of life, I believe.
So, Linda, with from your experience, from the we talked a little bit about it,
Mhm.
how the barriers, they the stress that's involved, the anxiety, or
Correct.
the
Yeah.
feelings of isolation in both children, and adults, that kind
Yeah.
of generational kind of a
Yeah.
curse that happens when you're not able to read, and how the stress can impact your mental health. And we also talk about a lot about generational trauma and mental health. How have you seen in your experience and who you've worked with, how does illiteracy play a role in continuing that cycle of stress and poverty? But we know that sometimes there's some people who make a decent amount of money that maybe are still faking it,
Yeah.
and the emotional hardships, just across the generations, because I know you go into homes and
Yes.
provide books.
Yes. And
So kind
provide
of tell
growth.
us about what you've seen as far as families that are maybe this generation of illiteracy and what's happening.
Yes. I do go into homes and deliver books, and I see families living in poverty. But then you reference, doesn't have to be a family in poverty. I used to serve a family where the mom was a lawyer and the dad was a psychologist or something. And their kids didn't have books. They had the shiny pink and blue plastic toys, and the kids could hardly talk. So then I go to the home of the single mom and living in poverty, and her home looked like a nursery school, and her kid got into a gifted school. So I'm like, I scratching my head. Okay, well that blew my paradigm. But so the generational poverty, I mean, the generational functional literacy is real, and it takes just one child or one person in that family to that can turn things around to where they realize that education is the gateway. Education is important. Reading is important. And it just breaks my heart when I see that. I mean, like, oh man, if only they would read, just grab a hold of this. But what I talk about, and maybe you've seen my video thing, is I talk about the culture beast. Our cultures in the home, like you said, Kelly, something maybe they don't emphasize literacy or the value of it and education. And so it's not maybe a top priority. And other things are above it, and I understand, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You got to put food on the table and, different things like that. And, one family said, "Oh, I don't care about no books." That's what the mother said. "I don't care about no books. Give me some food." I understand that. So that messaging, that how literacy can make a difference when I'm seeing the lifestyles of different people. Wow, if only they could understand the value of literacy and how important it is. It just broke my heart going into a home one time. I went into the home. A single mom had the baby on her lap. The brother was sitting in the living room. The grandmother was sitting in the living room, and they all were playing this video game. They all had a joystick, and I'm just looking around for any type of written material of any type of literature, no books. And I looked down the hall, saw the kitchen table, saw a cereal box. I said, "Oh, okay." That was the only written piece of literature in that home. So that's what I mean about uh, a culture, understanding that books are a gateway. I
Hmm.
tell you, like you said, Kelly, my motto is literacy is liberation. It can take you higher, and that's kind of like a off take of what Frederick Douglass, his famous quote is, "Once you learn to read, you are forever free." And so I can see how reading in the home can help you break free.
It's not just in the home though. And I guess
You're
from
right. You're right.
from
Go
my
ahead.
perspective, it's hard to fathom how,
Mhm.
how can you be 20 years old in this day and age if you've gone to any amount of schooling whatsoever?
Mm.
How can you not have some kind of reading comprehension or reading level? I understand, you may not grow up to be a bookworm or enjoy
Yeah.
reading and stuff like that, but the ability to read and write.
Well, that's why there is more attention being given to this issue. It is a critical issue. We hear it on the news and the scores. Kids are going to school and adults. Oh, I forgot the number. I can't remember the number. There's millions and millions of adults who are reading at a below basic level. And we have, of course, lots of children going into fourth grade and they're not able to read on a proficient level either, and that's important because that's a turning point when they have to read to understand all their other subjects. So it is a crisis. Now, how did we get here? I can't say. I don't. I know that schools are doing their part to change their curriculum and focus on the science of reading. And I do home based grassroots by getting books in the home because studies have shown if you have books in a home, that's a cue that
Mhm.
reading is important. Like I grew up in the Lisa, we talked about how you had all those comic books and things, and I had encyclopedias, and um, so we were in literacy rich environments. But Kelly, yes, that definitely happens. People get to age 20, 22, and they go into college and they have to take remedial courses because they can't, you know, do the college work.
That
And
just
they,
seems like a system that's failed
yeah,
and
it's systematic. It is, you're right. And they,
somebody's passing somebody along so that they're not their problem. And
mhm,
that's so
yeah.
not right.
And that's what happened to a couple of guys they were great athletes. So they
Mm.
kept being moved along so that they can play their sports.
Yeah, I believe that was like Lawrence Taylor's story.
Lawrence Taylor and somebody else. Anyway, I just read it. And he started a foundation, a football player, somebody, not Deion Sanders, but somebody else. He started a foundation because he realized here he is an NFL player and he's not able to read. So that's a reality, Kelly. People are
Yeah.
get to their adulthood and they're not able to read. And just going back to the emotions, the mental health. What is this doing to a person's psyche when you can see that reading is such an avenue to, like we said, agency, your empowerment? your even just you know, your comfort,
Hmm.
your empathy, understand reading a memoir about somebody and understand, oh, I understand about that person. I know their life, how their lifestyle.
Right.
Um, Reading about someone who's different from you, it just helps you become a more tolerant person. If you can read about other people, it offers solace and comfort.
You
And
have to avoid embarrassment and stuff at, with different reading levels and the emotional burden that, how does that emotional burden affect their mental health?
but you're right, it's kind of a hidden thing. That's why, we walk around and go about our daily business. And how do we know the person we're sitting right next to, or the person in the grocery store? How do we know that this person needs help?
Yeah.
That they're not wearing the scarlet letter. I don't know. How do we know how to reach out to these people that their lives could be different with just a little bit of help with the literacy. Um, I love
Hmm.
how people say, that book changed my life. Maybe you read a book about finances. It's like, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know about financial literacy. Well, there's all kinds of literacy. There's health literacy, financial
Right.
literacy. Everything's getting attached. So and so literacy. But it's true because there's answers. I just think there's an answer for everything. People, you can find the answer to different things.
So,
Linda, how have you been able to deal with, say, have you ever come across this situation? You
okay.
have one person in the home who is primarily responsible for doing all of the reading. Have you
Hmm.
ever had someone just say, hey, this is too much for me, I'm stressed out, can you come in and help these the other people in my family with literacy? Because that's something that we kind of haven't touched on, is there might be that one person
Hmm.
that is handling all of the literacy needs for an entire family.
Hmm. Um, you mean like reading the bills,
Right.
the recipes, whatever. Yeah, I understand. No, I haven't had that situation, but the situation that I love that has happened is when a mom will call me and talk about how their child is struggling in school. And I say, well, I have a kitchen tutoring program that I rebranded my tutoring, kitchen table tutoring. And I ask the mom or the parent to sit down with the child while I am tutoring so
love
that
that.
the parent can see what I'm teaching the child. And recently, had the mom and the son come to my house. And it was eye opening for her because she had no idea that her 9-year-old son didn't know how to write the alphabet from A to Z, in sequence. And we had several sessions. Maybe by the third session, he finally got it right. So when the parent is sitting there and they see what's going on, they can be more engaged. And
Hmm.
I give them homework. I say, go to the grocery store when you're in the grocery store, see if he can read this, and just you're at home, pick up the cereal box and just see if he can read that. And so now that they're involved too. But no, I actually haven't had that scenario where all the burden is on the reader in the family. But hmm, what would I say if that happened?
I love
Well,
that you keep mentioning the cereal boxes. 'Cause I grew up on cereal box reading. So,
there's a lot.
granted, I mean, I learned to read in kindergarten because
Wow. Hmm.
that was more so because I I was the tallest kid in class,
Hmm.
and
I'm just the opposite. I'm like 5'1".
I went to kindergarten in East St. Louis, and at
Hmm.
that time, back in,
Yes.
the whatever it
Uh-huh.
was, late 60s, early 70s.
Uh-huh.
But that was something that gave me something to do besides play mom when we played house at recess. I'm
Hmm.
like, just give me a book. I went and sat by myself and I read and I learned how to. just learn how to read. But
Okay,
it's
but did you also have the instruction? Because they say the research shows reading doesn't just come naturally. You have to be taught um, the like what's the vowel sounds, the phonics, and the you have to learn the fluency and comprehension. So they say reading has to be instructed, and that was actually going back to why kids a lot of kids can't read recently is because they were teaching kids, oh well, just look at the book and what was it
mhm,
called? Whole language or something. Just look at the picture. Okay, that's a balloon. You can probably figure out that that word is balloon because you see that picture. Did you get instruction though, Kelly? And
I mean, that
you
time
remember?
is vivid memory. But
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
my mom was very supportive,
Oh, see,
and
see
so I had support there, and if I remember correctly, the teacher would help me too. I remember reading Run Spot Run or whatever the book
Dick
was.
and Jane.
Yeah, Dick and Jane. Yeah,
Don't devalue those. That's what I grew up on too.
but it's very simple, and so
Yeah.
yeah, it's different. So I guess from my perspective and having the support that I had and the different ways that and it's always just been such a driver to know how to do those things and comprehension and the testing in schools and even watching my kids grow up and they have all these different things, but it's not that way for everybody in
No,
all
it isn't.
schools, in all homes.
And you use the key word support.
Hmm.
Just like you were referencing, Delisa, what about that stressed home where the adult is doing all this? They need support. And these people, I'm glad we're doing this because the more we talk about literacy and the importance of it, it creates awareness and people, oh, I never thought about that person is probably struggling or they went to prison because, they couldn't read or,
Yeah.
that you've heard about that school to prison pipeline. I've interviewed a couple of, what are they? I'm trying to think of the term, ex-felons or whatever. Yeah. And they said, I couldn't keep up and I just selling these drugs, that was easier. So they fell into this life. Then they go into prison and some of them have learned to read in prison and it just makes
Hmm.
a difference. But we're talking about a topic that will help others support people with their mental health. And reading is just so fundamental and I believe it is definitely tied to mental health because sometimes you just get in despair,
Hmm.
you lose hope, you get discouraged, you get envious of others, and it can really get you down. So
So
I'm all about let's lift people up. That's how I want to serve.
that's great. Love that. And so, how does the Metro East Literacy Project intentionally create like a safe, stigma-free space where people can learn without fear or judgment? Is that because you work with them one-on-one or?
Oh my gosh, did you just take the words out of my mouth? And even I did a summer reading program at a place. I'm always very encouraging and nurturing of the people, especially one on one. Like one gentleman, I think he was around 50 something, and he had degrees, but I just said, oh, don't worry about it. He had some kind of learning disability or something. But I never put people down in any way. We don't know what happened. And
Mhm.
I'm just here to serve and encourage and help them along. And in the classroom setting, I don't allow any other child to point fingers or tease anybody else. That's not going to help. I said, no, we're all helping each other. We cheer for each other. Look, they said that word. Yay. Let's everybody encourage each other. It's got to be a safe space. It's got to be an encouraging, uplifting space for people who are learning, people of all ages. We've got to create that safe space for them. We don't know what people are doing or what kind of situations people have at home, what kind of, you are familiar with that term, ACEs, adverse childhood trauma that's going on in people's background. And then when
Mhm.
they come to school, they want to have a safe place to learn. And you don't know
But
what
and that also is the formative years where it starts to shape their mental health in general and the
yes.
resilience and what they think about themselves and all of that works together.
And
Yeah,
I
I mean, I would go so far as to say being, having issues with literacy should be considered an adverse childhood experience.
yes, a
Mhm.
training I went to, the man that was affected by this, that I never forget. He said, "Well, if only I had been read some bedtime stories when I was a kid. My parents didn't do that. I mean, not that everybody can do that, but that's what his story was. He said, I wish they had read bedtime stories, and maybe that would have helped me." Because when parents do that, engage in that it creates
Mhm.
bonding and attachment for young kids. And I always talk about safe space. I always tell parents, you don't have to know how to read. Your 2-year-old has no idea what you're reading. They can't just
Mhm.
hold the book and make up stuff. It's all about just the bonding and the pointing to the pictures, and they'll get it later. You want to say that's a star, and make up your own story. We're not worried about you saying every word correctly. Just keep it safe and loving, and being an attachment. But that, you're right, Kelly. That is just so important, to create an environment where people feel comfortable learning, where they're not going to feel
Mhm.
embarrassed, um, about their situation. Yes,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we touched on this briefly, but you've worked closely with adults who were passed along in the school without ever gaining strong reading skills.
that's true.
So when you think about the adults that you've tutored, who stands out to you about how that experience shaped their lives beyond the classroom?
I see a lot of frustration. I've seen frustration with not being able to advance economically. Um, One man, he just really has a yearning to do work other than be a bartender. He's got a brilliant mind, um, other than I mean, every service is worthy, other than a warehouse,
Sure.
forklift. You know, there's nothing wrong with that work. But I'm just saying, in his mind, he wants to do something else. But there's that literacy barrier. Like, ooh, I can't read those manuals. I have some dyslexia issues
Mm.
that weren't dealt with when I was younger, and here I am now. Um, so I see frustration, and I always hope and pray that people don't get to the point where a dark road where mental health can take you. I
Yes.
hope that people don't get. So I'm just always wanting to reach out to people. I've experienced, in my own family, mental health suicide. With my young nephew committed suicide, and I wasn't. I don't know why. I really don't know why. But he was like, what, 20, something like that. And
Most
I,
of the time we don't.
yeah, I don't know if there was a note or anything, but I don't want people to get to that point where there's no hope. They don't feel that they have any hope.
Well, we're
And
right there with you on that one.
so we all, I'm glad this message is getting out so we can support each other, because probably a light bulb's going to come on in somebody's mind. Oh, you know what? I never thought about hmm, literacy and mental health. Yes.
I quite honestly, I didn't until Delisa suggested you, and I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, well, that's an interesting topic. And no, I really wouldn't have. So yeah, I'm glad we're bringing light to this, and I can see so much of how it could impact.
And I work in a schools. Well, I did until recently, was a substitute teacher in middle schools, and I love it when they have, some schools have this drop everything and read, and you have to read for 15, 20 minutes. They have dedicated time where the students have to read. So I
Hmm.
think that is so great that they are developing a reading habit and the students can choose what they want to read. It's not an assigned book, it's just a leisure book. And I said, well, this is so great because I'm seeing the kids, they're 13, 12, 10 years from now. Hopefully, that habit would have caught on. And if they ever find themselves in a place where they're sad or something, they can remember how good it felt to escape through
Hmm.
science fiction or whatever it is that they were reading, how they can find solace in that. So I think it's lovely that schools are having that practice of having
Are,
a dedicated reading time.
and aren't they bringing back? I had that too.
Mm-hmm.
They're bringing back I can't remember what it was called. It was like the whole series of the red,
Accelerated reader,
Or
yeah,
the
the
book it?
AC some, no, not Book It. This was
oh,
before that,
uh-huh.
where there was like this whole box of books and they were at
Yeah,
different level or different
yeah,
colors and stuff. And
yes. I had that. I call SRA or something. I don't
SRA,
know.
yeah, that's what it was.
Something like that reading, but that got you in the reading habit because you got rewards and points and things. The schools have
Yeah.
something similar, accelerated reader. They have something similar to that.
So I thought I
That's
read
helpful.
recently that there was something like that same program was supposed to start coming back into classrooms. I don't know why it ever went away because it was awesome. I mean, at the time, I thought it was annoying, but it.
But here's the thing: the research shows that more people need to read after they get out of school. That's when it really, really counts. Okay, so
Mhm.
you're in school and you're reading. Oh, I got to read this for geography class. No, you all know life really begins once you once you become an adult. That's when the reading really, really has to kick in because you've got to navigate life. You've got to read those bills that come in and all those insurance forms and that was just a springboard to me, school.
Well,
But
it's not even just reading the words that are on a page, it's the comprehension skills that go along with it
oh,
and that helps you retain the information.
you said that C word. See, literacy is reading, writing, comprehension, fluency, phonics, phonemic awareness, all of that. Knowing that what that, SH, what all these sounds are and how you can decode the word decoding and the vocabulary. You're right, the comprehension. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of comprehension skills are low, and people are saying, that we really need to work on that. So when I'm tutoring and we come across a word, and I say, well, did you understand that? Because we need understanding, not just knowing what the word reads, not just
Mhm.
not knowing the word. What does that mean? Yeah.
Linda, when you talked about reading outside of skill or outside of school,
Yes.
that brings us to an issue with access and
Yes.
libraries.
Yes. Yes.
So that's kind of where you fill a void as
Yes.
well. I mean, I know we are so blessed here where we are to have a
Yes.
great library, and
We
hopefully
do.
we'll be expanding that. And
Mm-hmm.
as a child, the library was central to my growing up with my parents, and I've kind of passed that on with my kids and my grandkids. Everybody had to have a library card,
Yes.
but in some areas that's not available.
You're right.
So with your work, how do you kind of fill that void in the way you can?
Yes, by giving what the Metro East Literacy Project does, we give a family a bag of 25 books, free of course, with titles for adults and children, and they can have as many bags as they want. So some people are on their second and third bag, and that's good. A study showed if your home has 500 books in the house, you're going to stay in school. That kid's going to stay in school longer than a family that doesn't have any books. So fill the house with books, and when you're done with those, pass them on to somebody else because books
Yeah.
are treasures, and your homes are treasure troves of books, and they're just sitting there collecting dust. So let's pass on that wealth. But you're right, the access. There are some communities. It's not equitable across all communities. Some communities they have a great thriving library, like what we do. And some libraries, they have no fines, no late fees. A lot of libraries have dropped that. And I love that our library system where, okay, I want that book or that DVD or whatever, and we have that interlibrary loan system. I can get a book from Springfield or Alton, and I don't have to go
Hmm.
there. But not all libraries are like that. So I love it when people can support libraries, especially when some of the funding is going away. So we need to keep that in mind. Keep our libraries thriving because that is, oh, shoot. I can't remember this person wrote an article about the library being like the last bastion of democracy or something. They're not checking your ID to come in. You just go in there and it's free. And people, you won't believe what the libraries have now. Our library, they do taxes. We have coffee machines. It's just beautiful. Our library will even lend you a telescope.
I haven't been in our library and since my kids got out of school, probably.
You will. Okay, Kelly, you would be amazed.
I probably
This library in St. Louis, I think they had a recording studio in there. So
Yes, the new public
nice.
library in St. Louis, it's
Nice.
amazing. And our library is really cool. I take
mhm.
the grandson every week because summer reading
Summer.
program from his school, they get the books and you have to fill all that out for summer reading. So
hmm
once a week we go to the library, we pick out the books and he reads 20 minutes a day every day during the summer, and his incentive is once he fills all that out, when he
Yes.
goes to school, he's going to get a cool prize.
Yes.
We used to
Like
get
my kids
pizza.
used to get pizza at the
Personal
book.
pay. Yep, personal pan pizzas.
Yeah. So
And I love the little library things that they started putting around town also. I
those
think that's
are
such a cool idea.
Yeah. We
those
have one at the city hall and in some
yeah.
other spots here in
Oh, they're
town.
all over the place looking like little birdhouses. I said that when people get the bag of 25 books, I said, now this is just a random, it's not curated just for you. You're probably not going to like everything here. Put it in a little library,
Yeah, and
pass
take
it
out what you
along.
what you like.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's really great. Yeah, that access. Hmm.
that's awesome.
That's an important issue, and we need to make sure that people have more access. You're right. Keep talking about it. Keep shouting it from the housetops. We need for people to have access to the libraries.
That we do.
Mm-hmm.
So you shared that growing up with an illiterate grandmother that deeply influenced you. How, like,
Yes.
what did you observe in her life that,
Well,
around the isolation, disengagement that informs the work that you do today?
well, to me, it was like a tale of two cities because I had my mother's mother. She was the illiterate one, and then my father's mother, whom we live with. She lived with us. She read the newspaper, she read her Bible, she read everything, and she was so engaged and took us all around the city of Chicago. She could navigate the trains and buses and all of that. And so her life was really large. And I can remember conversations with her. But my other grandmother, who was illiterate, and my mother had to, she was a cook, and my mother had to go on her job when she was in high school and read the recipes for her so that she could prepare them the next day. Her life was, I really don't even, Kelly, I really don't remember conversations with her other than her coming up to the apartment and we us get, hi, mama. But I don't remember, life lessons, deep conversations with her because, I mean, she could not, my mother said she and her brother had to teach her to like write her name and actually how to count. She was really, she really couldn't read in anything. So her life was kind of small. She just went and fished in Lake Michigan or wherever.
So
Just
she
went.
was very reserved and held back and didn't interact with
Yes.
with you a lot. So
Yeah, so I could see that, and actually I didn't even know that she was illiterate until I was an adult, and my mother told me, and it just a light bulb. Well, that's why you were sitting in the room reading all those letters to her. And she
yeah.
said, yeah, she couldn't read the letters from my uncle who had gone to the Navy. And it just, And that's when I said, okay, I'm going to teach people how to read because I could see how her life was. And my mother would recount how, when she was a kid, how her mother, my grandmother, would sit with the newspaper and just turn the pages, looking at the newspaper. Ooh, just wishing that she could read that, wishing that she could read those ads. And I said, oh,
Wow.
wow.
That kind of brings me back to the quote, the Frederick Douglass quote
Mm-hmm.
that you mentioned earlier. Once you learn to read, you'll forever
You
be
will be
free. And when you talk about, freedom, we're talking about expanding your world and
absolutely.
having access to so much that's out there. I mean, what does that mean, to youth, the freedom, especially, for people who may not have the freedom to move about the world because of issues with literacy. It's also like a freedom within the mind. Does
Yes,
that make Yeah.
that's I always that's another meaning to me of his quote because of course we're talking about in slavery times when he was, yeah, as a great abolitionist, he was thinking about that. Once you learn to read, because he secretly learned to read when he was a slave. And of course, you all are aware that it was against the law and you can get killed if you were a slave and you learn how to read or somebody was teaching you how to read. And that's because the power of being able to read. You're free in your mind. You're free in your movement. You can read signs. You can understand. You can have some agency in your life. And of course, the slaves did not have that. And so he said, just once you learn to read, you will be forever free, even in your mental faculties. So even though you're enduring all this oppression and all this, you have to withstand all this abuse, but you can find solace. Now, back then, what did they read? Of course, they were reading, they had ministers come through, and so they would be able to read Bible verses and different things like that. Um, that's probably what main thing they had access to, and letters. Um, Talking about the great migration, they would get newspapers from the north, like the Chicago Defender, and if they could read that, and they found out about the jobs, the people in Georgia and Texas, they found out about jobs in the north, so that they could read those newspapers and get out of the Jim Crow South. So that freedom that literacy can provide, that as a slave, they have to find some mental health. How do you endure that? How do you endure that, all of that oppression? And so he was a big proponent of that, of teaching people how to read, finding a way, risking people risking their lives. But
Very powerful.
that that's actually, if you ask me, what do I like to read? I like to read books that are set in that era because I think about my ancestors, people like my grandmother and her mother, and how did they survive and become so resilient? Because as a 6-year old, oh, I was a voracious reader. And how did they survive? I want to know how they were so resilient. How did they endure? So I read that books like incidents in the life of a slave girl or something. Not to be angry at people today, but I want to find that strength.
Hmm.
I
So what
want
are
to.
you finding? How they became so resilient?
Well, they had community. It was such a way that they helped each other. They were so resourceful in getting the scraps of food and figuring out how to make a lavish meal out of that, if you want to say, the scraps that were thrown out, and just the brilliance and ingenuity of how they figured things out, like figured out how to make signs through their quilting. They hung their quilts and embedded signals in those quilts.
Hmm.
And that was ingenious ways that they figured out ways to survive. And I just like to read about that because I want to know, hey, where did my strength come from?
That's great. That's
Did I
great.
get any of that?
I think you did. Uh, so on your website, you quote author Marita Golden, who
Oh,
describes reading as a private, intimate, sensual experience that results in expansion of the mind and enhancement of the soul. Why do you believe that that kind of expansion is so important for mental and emotional well-being?
oh, it definitely is because when you find yourself in a pit, a downward spiral, and I've been there, and sometimes you think you're the only one who's going through this broke, uh, marriage problems, kids problems, weight problems, all this stuff. You think you're the only one, but then you can read a magazine article or a book and find, oh, you know what? That person is going through that too. In fact, they even had it worse. I remember reading the biography Viola Davis, the actress, Academy Award winning. Whoa, growing up with rats, growing up with people, boys teasing her, calling her names, and her resilience overcome that to her determination. No, I'm going to Juilliard, or she didn't know that, but anyway, I'm going to be an actress. And then seeing her, I didn't grow up with rats, and we always had food. We didn't have to. My dad worked, and he was a mail carrier. My mother was staying at home, but we didn't have that level of poverty. So I'm boohooing about my life and feeling sad. But then when you can see someone else's life and have empathy, not that you brushed yourself all on, but no, not that. It's just that,
Because that was real to you at the time.
yes, I can just see that, you know what? I'm not alone.
Hmm.
And I see that somebody else made it. And so what Marita was saying is that books can be a comfort to you. It can provide solace. And you don't always have to stay in a pit. And and it's okay if you have to get professional help. And like one of your other guests was saying, you can get medications, you can do all kinds of things. But sometimes, it just even a simple story, you don't even know that can change your paradigm, change your life, change your mindset.
Yeah.
Um, but first, you have to know how to read. Or, wait a minute, you already mentioned this though. You can listen to a book.
Well, the audiobooks now.
Oh, what an invention! What an invention! I love that. I mean, we as kids we would listen to tapes in the car, but now you can listen to audiobooks, and a lot of kids in the schools are doing it. They have the book and they have the audio going, so that little beeper thing is going line by line.
Hmm.
But we have audiobooks now.
But don't you
So
think that well, I guess that
mhm,
impacts the ability to learn to read unless you are following it along. But do audiobooks then kind of are they a
mhm,
little bit of a hindrance to the whole overall literacy and
mhm.
reading, the ability to read versus just listening?
um, I don't think the research shows that because we have audiobooks now. People aren't wanting because what it does is it gives people more options. They can do both.
Hmm.
They can do the audiobooks. Sometimes, just out of necessity, you're not going to take 5 books on an Amtrak. You're just going to put them in take your audiobooks, or they can be in your phone. But I don't know. I don't think the research shows that people are reading less hardback books because of audiobooks. It's still they have a hunger and thirst for reading. And um, it still, I believe it helps people. Um, if the teacher in the classroom is teaching it right, they stop sometimes and say, now, what does that word mean? They're making sure that the students are comprehending and and they're fluent. and they can slow things down. They can enlarge things with this new technology. But
Well, you could probably follow a link and it tells you what the definition is.
yes, you can click on a certain word. Okay, what is a pugilistic? Okay, so all right. Oh, that means somebody who likes to fight or something. And you can find out what that means.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
now,
I've seen that kind of in with both, like you say, the audiobooks and the hard copy books. They both have their places. I know as
hmm
far as there have been times when I was going through a bad place and I was so anxious and my mind was just racing so much. I
hmm
could not physically sit down and read a book.
yes,
So I would have the audiobook. And then once things had kind of calmed down, my assignment was to start reading regular books. And of course, I
hmm
read my scripts and all that, but
yes,
it was a part, okay, so now you need to focus and you need to read physical books.
hmm you're right. However, research does show that reading hard books, paper is more superior. It is better for your brain, your neural pathways, to read those words, just like it's better to, like your Delisa, you're talking about, you write, you journal things down, put things in your calendar. It is better for our brain, our cognitive ability to do things the old fashioned way, turn the page, read the book, smell it, that tactile sensation. It is,
That's why book publishing hasn't gone out of business.
yeah,
People,
I really don't foresee it.
I think avid readers really like to have that physical book that they can touch and have in their hand and stick a bookmark in and take and
The
underline or
bookmark,
highlight or
I know. I mean, shoot, the book fairs around here, I'm like, whoa, books are not going out of style.
nope, nope, not at all. I think there was a as a published author, I know for a while
Mhm,
there it was like, okay, this is just going to go, between audiobooks and podcasts and newspapers and all that's going to go by the wayside, and it didn't go. It's not going that way. It might have dropped, but
mhm.
it's never
Yeah,
going to be completely replaced. Print is still
research,
too big.
you're right. The research is showing that a lot of leisure reading has dropped, but I know they're saying that, but like, why do we have all these bestsellers? People are still coming out with books. Somebody's reading. Oh, yeah,
It's easy to be an Amazon bestseller.
yeah, somebody's reading, and then it just reminded what we're saying now about the access in the bookstores. But there are a lot of ways that people can books free. Besides me, I can't. But there
Hmm.
are a lot of ways that people can get free books.
But Kindle has free books.
Free books, free. I mean, there's places, thrift stores are practically free, like you said, the little library.
Hmm.
But I always say you can know how, but you have to know why. Why? And that goes to what Marita Golden was saying. What was the book? What is reading going to do for you? How's it going to change you? How's it going to help your mental health? Are you going to poo-poo it? You know, I don't need no book. What's that going to do? Well, read the right book. It can change your life.
Yeah, so that it becomes a source of empowerment
That's
over
a
that.
key. That's a key word. Empowerment,
And knowledge is power.
agency, uh, control, self self governance, comfort. There's this,
Hmm.
it's a long list of the benefits of reading. Got so many articles bookmarked in my Evernote. Benefits of reading.
As I turn and look at my shelf that has all kinds of unread books on it,
hmm Hey, we only have
I just got
24.
a new one for Christmas.
Oh, nice. Is it an
Yeah.
actual book or is it a?
It's a hard copy. Matthew McConaughey's poems and
Oh,
whatever poems and something, whatever it is.
oh, okay.
So
That's cool. Yeah, yeah. Well, I hope you have a chance to get to it. But you know what? Now, see, that goes back to what I'm telling the parent. You have to be intentional because look at our lives. You have to be so intentional because it's shoot, I want to stream that thing I saw Delisa in her show, I want to stream that, PBS thing or something. And it's just so easy with the remote. We have so much coming at us. And you think about our ancestors and our parents on the farm and the rural, they didn't have all that stuff we had. And they say they were smarter than we, us, the greatest generation. They didn't have all that stuff. They sat by the fire and read. But we have a lot coming at us. So Kelly, you got to say, all right, Saturday night. That Saturday's my reading day.
Yes, ma'am. Turn
Yes.
off the TV.
I designated Saturday as my study day when I read all my Google alerts, keep up with what literacy, all, my study. Now, don't ask me how many times I've followed through, but
Yeah, it's hard.
I used to
Well,
have it on paper, Saturday study day.
for the longest time in my business, my other day job
Mhm.
is, I've worked with authors for 25 plus years, and a lot of times it
Mm.
was my reading consisted of not only reading my books and
Ooh,
publishing, but doing others.
wow.
And so that was how I got my reading.
Hmm.
I was reviewing and editing and publishing other books.
I do want to mention one story I just read recently. It pertains to mental health. You're talking about all that reading. So think about your vision, how valuable that is. All of us, our vision to be able to read and listen. Now, here's a woman. How old was she? She was late in life, maybe 80 something. Oh, I wrote it down in the Time magazine. A woman who had lost her vision and was unable to read. I forgot how she was elderly. And she got a visual implant. Look at this medical technology, some kind of visual implant that allowed her to read again. And here's what she said: this brought me hope. It literally changed my life. I was so devastated because I was not able to read.
Love
So
that.
her mental health, she was just, because she used to teach children, mentally, she was just getting really depressed. And
Hmm.
once she got this medical device, visual implant thing, and she just came alive again. She just came alive again.
It's amazing.
That's the power of reading. It can get you out of the dumps.
Yep, can believe that. Kind of like music too. Music,
Mm-hmm.
it's all in the words, it's words. The words that
Mm-hmm.
speak to you.
Yes.
Linda, can you give us a couple examples of what you've seen in your work in people once reading becomes a part of their lives? How are they empowered? How are their lives changed? From the frustration and shame to feeling that they have more control or agency over their lives. What positive changes have you seen?
Honestly, like I said, I've had people who have given up and quit, so I haven't gotten really to the finish line with them. But I do have some families once I can report where they get a bag of books and they comment on, like, one father. He never read bedtime stories to his children. He had a wife, but his wife worked at night, and this father said the kids won't even go to sleep until he reads them a bedtime story. So, and I was saying, look at this bonding that you're going to have with your little 2 and 3 year old kids now, and they're going to just have that bond with you, and they're going to remember those moments. So, I just love hearing those comments from families who really appreciate
Mhm.
having those books. One woman talked about, um, wow, that Monet art book, because I mean, it's just we get everything. I asked for coffee table books. I asked for cookbooks. So I had this big art Monet book. Who knew? She said her kid just loved that book. Looking at all the artwork. Who knows what that's gonna how that's gonna impact her. But I can't wait to get to the finish line of with someone who started out, really couldn't read and they just struggle. I mean, they can read some things, but I want to get them to the finish line where they really feel empowered, like, okay, any piece of mail that comes in, I don't need any help. I can read it. And unfortunately, that hasn't happened yet. Again, life struggles. I've got to get a job. I don't have time to come to see you. My 20-year-old lady, 20-year-old, another 20-year-old I was working with, oh, I need to get a second job. Okay, well, now we can't do our lessons. So I want to get to the finish line. I'm just so eager to get to that finish line. You're talking about, Delisa, where I see the victory how much reading has empowered them. But I'm not giving up.
Oh no,
said,
you can't.
I said,
How long have you been doing this?
Oh, let's see. In this iteration, I would say, after the pandemic. Yeah. So
Okay.
I would say 2023. Before that, I would do a lot of story times, but I've had to pivot, do different things. So, but now I think we've landed on giving families a bag of 25 books in a home. We've
Hmm.
landed on doing kitchen table tutoring one-on-one because we found that either somebody can come to my house or I can go to their house, and we've landed on. Oh, I didn't even mention my senior citizen thing.
Yes, please do, because that has been so much fun.
Oh
I've
yeah,
had the pleasure, and my son has had the pleasure of
yes.
going to the community centers.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to tell you, that was just such an awesome experience, both those years. And the seniors were they were so gracious,
Yes.
and and then they would pass along their knowledge, as we're reading certain books. They
Mm-hmm.
would say, yeah, that's how it was, and then they would start telling stories about
Yes.
their lives, and it helped them get engaged.
See,
But yeah,
seniors are my heart because I always think of, okay, these are my grandmothers. I'm a senior myself, but still, I'm just saying I don't want to ignore that population of senior citizens because
So what
well,
is this that you guys did?
so I have an annual event to celebrate seniors, National Grandparents Day, National Seniors Reading. And so we gather at a senior center. I get volunteers like Delisa, people from the community, and I go to the library and get a whole lot of books. Every book has to have a grandmother or senior or something in there that's going to talk about that they could relate to. And we just display the books. Delisa, you go up to the table, pick a book that you want to read. Chris, go pick a book you want to read. And the seniors sit down and we just tell them the stories. And you, like you said, Delisa, they can relate. Oh yeah, I remember we went and we used to make this dress out of this apron sacks and whatever it is. And that's literacy in action. And I did have a lady at one of these events. She said, "Oh, I wish I could read." She was 83. She said, "I wish I could read. Can you help me read?" Something like that. Then I think the pandemic happened or something, but I didn't get to help her. But a lot of people in that age group, like you were saying, Kelly, they didn't get, a lot
Hmm.
of them, they don't have, they aren't able to read. But yeah, so we do that, and I help the seniors because I think they're just so important and so lovely,
I think that's
and
great. Sounds
we,
awesome.
we need to
it is truly a
do.
amazing time, and I really loved watching, my what was he, 21 at the time,
Your
year
son,
old,
yes.
sitting and really learning from them. He'd read the book, but then they would tell their life stories. And it's so important that we have our elders while they're
Hmm.
here, that we can listen to their stories and what life was like, and give them that honor and that respect. And
Hmm.
it's just such a great time. I love when you have that every year,
I'm
and
doing
we're always down to
yeah.
come and participate. And for any of our listeners who
Hmm.
are inspired by the work that you do,
Hmm.
whether it's when you need volunteers to
Mhm.
go to the storage unit,
Mhm.
or volunteers for the senior reading event.
Yes.
What are meaningful ways that they can help support the Metro East Literacy Project?
First thing I want them to do is to be aware of the people in their world, the people in their community, the people in their family. Just be aware of how reading can help them deal with some of their mental health issues. You know, don't be afraid to ask, are you struggling with reading, and hey, let's just sit down and read a book. Now, as far as helping the Metro East Literacy Project, you're right. All those ways, I would love people to donate books, to donate, to help us in our finances. I would love them to sign up for our newsletter so that they can know when we're going to do our volunteer days or our senior reading event. That's just annual event. Maybe there's some people out there who would like to help tutor someone in reading. There's a lot of people who maybe can do some one-on-one tutoring and want to give back that way. So maybe somebody's even interested in being on a board. I need some more board members.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah, it's not too burdensome at all. Not at all. But yes, I love that you asked that, open that up to the public because I find that I have a Pollyanna positive attitude. I think everybody's trying to help somebody. I think we all do this work. Look at your podcast. You're helping somebody. I go on YouTube. It's like it's a university. You're showing me how to make this food. Most people are trying to help somebody else. It's not. It's
Mhm.
just the few bad apples who are trying to do nefarious things. But most of us are want to help somebody in our professions, in our serving. And so look, your podcast, you're helping people, and all those wonderful guests you've had on, the lady with the dog, the lady that was the radio person. Now she's doing the cannabis medical, and all these things that we're trying to help people. I'm trying to help people with
Mhm.
literacy, trying to see how it can change their life.
And what is your website? I want to make
It's
sure you mention that.
it's long. www.metroeastliteracyproject.org. And that's also my email, linda.mitchell@metroeastliteracyproject.org.
Well,
And
we'll
you're on
be
the socials, correct?
I'm on, yes, Facebook, Instagram. I have a TikTok. What is it? TikTok.
TikTok.
I just need to use it more. LinkedIn. It's not the breath mints. It's TikTok.
Right.
I mean, or maybe I got it wrong. Anyway, I need to use that more, and uh, yeah, I need some help. I'm trying to wear all these hats by myself. I need some help, so
You
and so
can
I
you
can.
can do reading time on TikTok.
Yeah, that's a powerful
Yeah,
medium.
yeah. We haven't ventured into that one yet, but
Oh, okay, all right. See, I'm not too bad. Too bad.
we've got our platforms and we're just going to be good at those for right now
Yeah.
until our board grows and our volunteer base grows.
Okay. So
So,
we're gonna help each other.
all right. Well, Linda, thank you for sharing your heart, your wisdom, and the powerful work that you're doing through the Metro East Literacy Project and everyone tuning in. It's I think what you're doing is amazing. I think the connection that we have made here for, the relationship between reading and literacy and mental
Mhm.
health
Yeah.
is huge. And
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
no, I
It is.
think it's great. So anything else imparting to Lisa?
I just want to tell everyone to pick up a book, share some books. If you're, local and you can help Linda out, please do. You will not regret it. You will have such a glorious time. I cannot speak highly enough of Linda. You know how I feel about you,
Well, the
Linda. You know how
feeling
I
is
feel about reading.
mutual. You've helped me in a lot of ways. The feeling is mutual. So,
Go get a library card.
That too. I promote library. That's all in my mission statement. The Metro East, we promote libraries, adult literacy, tutoring, reading, So yes, thank you.
Love
Thank you
that.
for
Love
having me.
that.
It's really been great. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. All right, we'll see you next time. Until then, keep shining.
Keep shining.
Thank you for joining us on Glow for Hope. If today's conversation resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, your mental wellness matters, and you are never alone. For more resources and support, visit glowforhopenfp.org. That's glowforhopenfp.org. Stay connected, stay hopeful, and keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep shining.
This podcast does not and is not intended to provide medical advice. The information presented on this podcast should not be interpreted or construed in any way as a replacement or substitution for medical advice. It is important that you discuss your condition, treatment options, or any questions that you may have with your doctor or healthcare provider.